what's going on is praise, and you tune in to Behind the Beats. I had a program called Cool Edit 96. There's been, newer versions of it since then. Now I think it's called Adobe Audition. Adobe bought the program from Centrillium, but I started when it was called Cool Edit 96. Shout out to Peter Quisgard. If you ever use Cool Edit, you know who Peter Quisgard is. And everything I made on Cool Edit was terrible. Nothing sounded good. Everything was I was getting my legs about me. So that's, Then I met somebody who had an MP, and he had an MP, a mixing board, all that, and he kind of showed me the ropes of how to actually program, different notes and beats and all that kind of stuff. And I caught the bug, and was on eBay every day looking for cheap equipment. I couldn't find any, so I just ended up saving up and getting. At the time, an ASR-X was brand new, so I got an ASR-X, top of the line, and hit that learning curve. My first musical influence I remember was probably RZA. That whole Wu-Tang era was what started me, with hip hop in general. And RZA was one of my biggest influences, but also the whole Wu Elements. They called themselves the Wu Elements at the time, which was True Master, Mathematics, Fourth Disciple, and there's another one I can't remember right now. But that whole sound, just the way they incorporated samples into their music, like unorthodox programming styles and all that. That was like my first big influence. Then probably DJ Scratch, because he was the foundation of that whole flip mode, movement. He had the extremely unorthodox like drum programming. The snare was early, and the bass lines. That's the first time I ever heard a bass tone like flip like that. I never heard people flip just a bass tone. And like now I understand it was like the 16 level method of the MP. The MPC does that, but like I've never, because it doesn't sound like a bass guitar when he does it, and it doesn't sound like a synth. It's like his own unique bass sound. So that was something that I spent a lot of time trying to bite, and since then I've kind of, I didn't bite it. I just kind of got my own style about it. But Knots is a gigantic influence. That guy, he's never made a whack beat. He should be in everybody's top 5. Knots is amazing. Bink is somebody who, he recently did a track for Kanye called Devil in a New Dress. They got him a lot of, a new attention, but I've been a fan of Bink ever since the Dynasty album, the Jay-Z Dynasty album, where he did You, Me, Him, or Her, which was crazy. 1-900 Hustler, which is a perfect beat. Then on the Blueprint, he did The Ruler's Back, which is, if you ever heard that sample for The Ruler's Back, you know that he did some ungodly things to that sample. It's this stuff that you can't duplicate. People have tried on YouTube and all that. You can't piece that back together how Bink did it.
What do you look for in a sample?
Anything can jump out there. Sometimes it could be like just a vocal in the background or whatever that grabs you a certain way. You might want to loop it or chop it and repeat it, or do just stuff. Different stuff jumps out at you at different times. Sometimes you might hear something in the left channel that's not in the right channel. You'll solo in on the left channel, and that you can flip it that way, or vice versa. So there's literally no limit to what can jump out at somebody from a sample.
Talk about your production process.
Oh man. Well, I use a piece of equipment that a lot of people don't really talk about. If you learn the ASR-X first, then you understand this, the nuances and all that. So once you learn that, you adapt to how it works, and then you can pretty much do what you want to do on it. But I'm basically sample based, so I usually go to the crates first, and then whatever comes from that is what I jump on.
I've talked to a lot of producers, and their main thing that they hate about production is overproduction. Yeah. What are your thoughts on that?
It's a mind game. When you start working on a track, you can't think about, especially as a sample-based producer, you want to be able to leave your footprint on a track. And like when you're working with a sample, that's already another piece of work that you're working with. So you tend to kind of want to add something or add more of your production, so you can say I did this, or this is my input on this track. But when you do that, sometimes you can kind of stack stuff on too thick, and you gotta kind of dial it back a little and just focus on making a good track first, and then the other stuff will come later.
So you record from the ASR-X into Adobe Audition? Oh, Cubase.
Cubase, yeah, I go straight into Cubase. I got the Lexicon Omega sound card. I just go straight from the ASR. If I'm tracking it out, I got the 8 outs in the back that let me go out, 8 tracks at a time, then switch to do another 8 tracks. Let's see. I'm coming from I got the vintage keys. Oh, everything's MIDI up. This is just an old, an old amp that kind of warms up the sound a lot. So I run the vintage keys actually I run the turntable through this also. It warms everything up and comes to the ASR. And what I'll do, this is probably the most backwards way to do this, but like I might play a riff, because this has some good analog keyboard sounds on there. I might play a riff or whatever and sample it into the ASR instead of just programming it, in that, and then just kind of chop it like a sample. I might use I made just standalone tracks with just that, and I've also used it to accompany sample based tracks. I got a ton of VSTs that pretty much do the same thing. So that's pretty much what I'm using.
What MC would you like to be locked in the studio with and record a whole album?
A whole album? I don't know. Ghostface. And Ghostface is probably my favorite MC of all time. But it's a ton of them. I think Elzai is a genius. I'm a big fan of Freeway. I think that's one of the most unorthodox, MCs in the world. The way he flips rhyme schemes and content and all that, concept songs. Free is extremely slept on.
As far as the stuff that you want to work with Ghostface, but you want to make like Christian hip hop records.
It's not hard. It's I like what I like. So I grew up listening to Wu-Tang and I'm a Mobb Deep fan and all that. But at the same time, I was raised Christian. My parents raised me Christian. Everything's voice crack right there. But yeah. So you want to make something that I personally want to make something that glorifies God and something that people can enjoy and find uplifting. But I'm just making music. So when you meet somebody who's a talented artist, it's you kind of have to have that's why a producer and the artist have to have a cohesive kind of chemistry to kind of bring one vision forth. Because when you're just sending a track to somebody, they write what they want to write, and then that's what it is. But yeah, if you get with some like-minded people, you can pretty much make music that you're proud of, for more than just it sounds good.
How'd you get your production name, your producer name? Does that have to do with your faith?
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
It was, I had a couple names that that I wanted to put on the video, but I just kind of landed on praise. It was something that I think reflected my faith, and I don't want it to sound corny. So that was the thing. I wanted a name to reflect my faith that didn't sound corny. So praise. I don't know if I did it or not. It might still be corny, but I like it. It's stuck now. So.
I've been laughed at, talked about by those who claim to be friends. I've been criticized, disputed, but I